Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today it's in the mid-70s, so I can feel spring in the air. My allergies are kicking back up. It's a great time to be alive. So I thought today I would sit down and talk about my favorite spring kind of summery palettes. So like if you're trying to incorporate a little bit more color into your routine, if you're more like a neutral type of person, but you want to start playing around with like pastels and things like that, I think these are some great palettes. So I have a lot to get through today, so let's just jump right into it. Okay, the first couple, I'm just gonna run through the ones that I have. Technically I have them all, but I like these ones specifically for like spring, summer, because you can just, first of all, they're really affordable, they're really great quality, and you can find them in a bunch of different stores. So I think these ones are really nice. These are the e.l.f. bite-sized eyeshadow palettes, and they are so beautiful. Let me just run through the ones that I think would be a good addition for like a spring summer kind of look. This is the Quad Rose Water. It's like soft kind of cool tone pinks and like mauves and things like that. There's like that deep plum on this side. Then we have the, this one is called Carnival Candy. So this, if you're more into neutrals, this has like your neutrals with a pop of blue. And I know that's a very, you know, not a lot of people are into neutrals with a pop of blue, and I totally get it. It's been done so many times. However, I do think this is really nice, especially for like summer. If you just want like something really easy, you can use these neutrals to do a look and then pop this blue like on the waterline or underneath the eye or like as a liner. So I do think this is really nice and an easy way to incorporate just a splash of color. This one is called Hot Jalapeno. I think this one might be my favorite, at least in my like top 3 of like all the ones that I have, just because it's these nice like grungy greens with that pop of gold. I think this is really pretty, and green is still having a moment, so if you didn't jump on the green train, that's an easy way to do it. And then this one is called Acai, like the fruit acai. I don't know. I don't understand the pun there. Like, I see you, acai you. I even saying it right? I don't know. Anyway, it's like these periwinkle blues. I think this is really gorgeous and a great way to do like bluey purple into your routine, because it's not so bright and intense and like bold. It's more like soft and subdued, but still blue, you know? So this one is also really nice. Moving on to, I think, like a pastel staple. If you're really into pastels and you don't have this palette, I would highly recommend picking it up. This is the Strobe Cosmetics Creepy Cute palette. Strobe Cosmetics did rebrand, so their name is now Shroud Cosmetics, but they still have this palette, and they do have it as singles if you're just trying to pick up like 1 or 2 shades and you don't want the whole palette. They do have them as singles, which I think is cool. But I love this color scheme. I think it's really gorgeous. My only gripe with it is I wished this gray called Tombstone would have been like a pastel yellow, because then it would have been like a full pastel rainbow palette. Or I mean, I guess Void could have been a yellow, but I do like this black. But other than that, that's like really my only like complaint about it, is I kind of wish it was like a full rainbow pastel palette and then had like that black in it if you were trying to like switch it up. I really love the color Third Eye. It's like that soft like peachy orange color, and then like all these like cool tones on the top are really gorgeous, and the pigmentation, like the blendability is all there. In terms of like the formula, I think this is really good, and if you're just looking to like start dipping your toes into pastels, I think this is a great one, because it's such a good formula, such a good color scheme, and you really can't go wrong with this one. This one, I had my eye on it at Sephora for so long, and I was reading so many reviews about how like when it first launched there was a bunch of issues with it, like the shimmers wouldn't show up on people at all, like it was really patchy, it was really weird, it was really inconsistent. And then I guess just from what I'm reading from like the comment section of like, you know, reviews on this palette, or like the Sephora reviews and stuff like that, it seems like they redid the formula and then sent it back out to people who were disappointed with the product. So I don't know anything about that. I really wasn't paying attention to this brand when that happened, because I think this is one of their first palettes that came out. But this is, sorry, I didn't say the name of it. This is the Lemonade palette by Dominique Cosmetics. I really love this palette. I do really like the formula of the mattes. They're really gorgeous. They're really blendable. And like even this yellow is really pigmented. Like because I was seeing so many negative reviews on Sephora for this palette, I wasn't really expecting a lot. But then I was like, I really like the color story. It's really, really pretty and like soft and like kind of everyday, especially for like spring. I think it's gorgeous. So when I was using like these mattes and like this yellow in particular, I wasn't really expecting anything, but it was surprisingly pigmented. The shimmers are nice. They're not going to be the most pigmented shimmers in your collection. You're not going to blind anyone, and no one's going to like come up to you and use your eyes as like a mirror because they can see themselves in the reflection. Like they're not super intense, but not everybody likes a super intense shimmer. Like I really like a super intense shimmer, but I do recognize that there are like differences in shimmer formula for a reason. Someone who is wearing this palette to like their day job isn't gonna want something that's so glittery and blinding. And I think especially for spring, people tend to do like softer washes of color, softer shimmers that aren't super, super intense and blinding. So I do think this is a really good palette. It did have some issues in the past, I guess. I don't know. I really wasn't there. I was just kind of taking context from like, you know, the reviews and stuff. But I think this is gorgeous. I think it's really unique. Like these two shimmers in particular, like I don't really have anything like that in my collection. You know, I really love this kind of like mustardy mango yellow down here, and like these pinks are really nice. So this one is also, it's just a good palette overall, but I do think it is kind of like being pushed out of like the system or whatever, because Dominique Cosmetics doesn't actually have it on their website, at least when I was trying to buy it. It was on Sephora when I purchased it because that's where I got it from, but I don't know if they're like discontinuing it because they had so many issues with it. But if you like the color scheme, I would, you know, definitely recommend it. The formulation is really, really nice. So this is the Psyche's Box palette. This is by Clara Psyche. It's kind of like an indie brand. Their Instagram, let me just say, is so gorgeous because they take like pictures from different like creators and stuff, and like just for inspiration, not even just people that are using their product, but people that are just making these like gorgeous like editorial looks. Oh, it's so stunning. I would definitely recommend checking out their Instagram. They also do have another palette that they launched, and it's really, really pretty, and I want to pick it up, but I'm holding out. But this is the Clara Psyche palette. Oh, sorry, the Psyche's Box palette, like I said. This one does have a lot of like pastel rainbow tones in it. So this is what it looks like close up. You can see kind of like this half is more pastel, whereas this half is more just kind of like true colors. Like this red isn't like desaturated or anything. I do think it's really interesting, like especially this half of it is gorgeous. This color Sprite is one of my favorite one of my favorite colors in like my entire collection. I just think it's so, so gorgeous. Also Baby Jane and Fantasia are really pretty. I mean, Baby Jane, you could probably find a pink like that in a lot of different palettes, but I love the look of this. This Phantom color is really nice. I like used it all over my lid one day, and I was like, I've never like loved a gray, just like a matte gray, as much as I love this one. This white is really nice. It's also pigmented enough where you can make these like more just like true rich colors on this side. You can like use the white and dip back and forth between those and like say Subterranean, which is this blue, and you could make your own pastel blue. It's like it's got some pigment to it. So I really, really like this one. They do often have like, I think it's like 20% off sales for this palette. So if you were interested in it, I would say wait for a sale, but it's really gorgeous. I like the back of the palette. I think it's really cute. It's got like all the colors and like this little butterfly for some reason. So it's really cute. Highly recommend. I also forgot to say that this one is all matte, and I bring that up because this next palette that I'm going to talk about is all shimmer. This is the Essence Never Give Up Your Daydream palette. It's like $10, and you can always use like an Ulta coupon if you're buying it from Ulta. Mine did come smashed. This color, what's it called? Whipped. It's like an orange duochrome. First of all, I should say this is like an all iridescent duochrome palette. So if you're like me and you like to have kind of like a matching iridescent color on the inner corner for a lot of your looks. Today I just have like a matte yellow, but I like to do like, say I'm doing like an all green look. I would take like Sprite from that other palette, put it all over my lid, maybe take like a darker green from a different palette, put it in my outer corner, and then I would take the color Pistachio here and pop that in my inner corner, and it would just be like a soft pastel-y, you know, monochromatic green look. So I really like this palette for that reason. These are also just really nice to use as like, if you want to do like a shimmery, iridescent, like highlight for your face, you can use any of these. I think it's really, really handy if you do a lot of like pastel or like iridescent, dreamy kind of looks, or just any like editorial looks. I think this is really nice. So, and it's super cheap. I'm going to talk about these two in tandem because they're both from Sugarpill, although one is like singles. So this one is the Sugarpill Fun Size Mini Color Palette. Again, this is just kind of like a rainbow palette, but I do think this one is really, really unique in that some of them are kind of pastel, they're kind of neon. A lot of these are really, really unique. I think Twitch is pretty similar to that color Sprite in the Clarisyke palette, although it does have like a little bit more like neonness to it. I think Continue is really, really interesting because it's like kind of a dirty yellow. And then High Score is like this really bright, intense, like orange juice color. So I really, really like this. The formula is more on the buildable side. You're not going to get like full pigment on one swipe, but they do layer on top of each other really well. This is my Sugarpill magnetic palette. I have some of their like single shadows in here, and these are just the ones that like stuck out to me the most and that I thought I would get the most use out of. So they're all matte, although Buttercup Cake and this green one, I don't know the name of it, they do have a little bit of shimmer in it, but it's not a shimmer that like translates onto the eye. It's more of like a shimmer that's in there to make it more like blendable. So I do think these are really, really nice if you're a color lover. If you're more of like a neutral everyday kind of gal, then I don't think this is really up your street because they are big pans. They're like the 36mm ones, and they're expensive. They are great quality, but if you're not going to use them that often, I don't really think they're worth it. But Sugarpill always has really nice eyeshadows, and they do have sales. So if you're looking to pick up one or two of those singles, then I would wait for like a sale. They just had their birthday sale, but they usually have sales for like holidays and stuff like that. So if you are interested, watch out for those. They're really great quality. Next, let's talk about the Glisten Cosmetics Disco Dynamite palette. This is what the packaging looks like. It's really cute. And then on the inside, this is another like all matte palette. But these are really, really nice. Like every time I use this, I'm like blown away by it. I really love the color Rhythm, which is kind of like the same color as this like packaging. It's like this pinky purple kind of thing. I feel like every time I open up this palette, my eye is immediately drawn to this one, even though it's the same color as the packaging. I'm like, I want to use that one. Fever is also really nice, and like they're just all so blendable and gorgeous. You also have this nice white down here if you're trying to make any of these like a little bit more pastel, but it's super pretty, it's really gorgeous, and it's an indie brand. If you're interested in an all matte palette with like these kind of tones. This is not a rainbow palette. I feel like this is the first non-rainbow palette I've talked about. But I think it's really, really nice, and the quality is there for sure. Okay, only 4 more palettes to talk about. This one is the Strawberry Dream palette by Lunar Beauty. I talked about this in my January favorites, but I think this is really, really nice. I feel like this is more kind of like leaning towards like summer makeup kind of vibes because these are pretty bright and intense. There are some more like pastel-y shades over here, but like this whole bottom row, like those middle ones are like intense. For spring, for more like softer, dreamy, pastel-y kind of vibes, I feel like these top two rows are really nice. These two, honestly, I was very, very surprised when I used these two because my eyes were immediately drawn to these two when I like got the palette. I was like, those two, I'm gonna test them out. And I was pleasantly surprised because they do show up in like true color. I thought because they were so pastel and kind of white based, you wouldn't be able to see them at all, but they built up really, really nicely. And then I just use, I think I used Blue Diamond the first time I used this palette, and it's really, it's like a iridescent blue shade. I don't know if you can see that. But it's really, really gorgeous. It's really nice on the inner corner. And then all these shimmers up here are a little bit more subdued. A lot of them are kind of like deep and dark, so they're not like true springy shades. But if you're trying to get a lot of color for not a high price tag, I would recommend the Shop More US Bubble Pop palette. I found this brand on Instagram. I kept seeing them and I was like, okay, let me check it out, because they had a sale. I think it was like 30% off, and their palettes, like for their original price, are like $12. So I was like, okay, I'll buy one, whatever, let's try it out. And this is really good. As you can see, it's a bigger palette, like there's more colors in there. So if you're not into like, you know, curated color stories, this might not be inspiring for you necessarily, but I do really like it. So on the top two rows, you kind of have like neutrals and like, you know, more rosy pinky tones, which at this stage in the makeup game, I feel like 2020 pinks and like, you know, berries and stuff kind of fit in the neutral category. And then these bottom two rows are like blues and greens and purples and yellows and stuff like that. So more like pops of color. The only downside I find to this palette is there are some pressed glitters. I personally don't mind a pressed glitter, but I don't really love the formula of these ones. You can see there's that. Like, it's okay. You would definitely have to use a glitter glue. It's not one that's gonna like self-adhere. You can see that, you know, it's kind of patchy. It's not gonna like be super smooth or creamy or whatever. So not into pressed glitters, you might not love those, but there's only 1, 2, 3 of them, and this is like what, a 35 pan palette? 32. It's 32 pans. So 3 out of 32 is not bad. You can just ignore those ones. However, the shining light of this palette are some of these shimmers. Like, I do find that there's like several formulas in here. There's like mattes, there's more satins, there's kind of these subdued shimmers, which ignore those. But these, like, there's a couple of them that you can see have more like texture. Like, you can look at Ice Queen here, this like purpley one. It has more texture, as well as like, what is this called? Ruby Ripe. I thought it said Rusty Pipe. Ruby Ripe. So these ones are so creamy and like stunning. Oh my gosh, like look at those. So nice. They swatch gorgeously. So I would love if they came out with a palette that had a lot more of those like shimmers to it. They're so creamy, so beautiful, and super cheap. So if you're willing to ignore the pressed glitters, or if you're willing to like work with the pressed glitters, if you like them, you know, this is definitely a good palette. But honestly, just for those shimmers alone, I would go back and buy like a different palette that they have. Next up is also something new to my collection. This is the Sun-Kissed palette by Profusion. Now, similar to the last one, this one does have a couple pressed glitters in there. Although, I do find that this pressed glitter formula is a little bit like more user-friendly. Here, let me swatch it next to that other one. Okay, I don't know if you can tell, but this one, this shimmer formula, or this pressed glitter formula is a little smoother. Like it does it doesn't go super patchy like that blue one. It does have like more of a smoother consistency. Like it's gonna kind of glide on and it's not gonna look too patchy. But again, if you don't like pressed glitters, you might just want to ignore those. But I did use this palette today for my eye look. I did use Butter Cupcake for that yellow, although this yellow is surprisingly very, very good. And then for this kind of like limey green, I used these two. And then for that like outer corner, I used a little bit of this like, I don't know, like periwinkle blue. I really like these kind of tones. And then I use like a deeper version of this from a different, it's just like a single eyeshadow from Give Me Glow. But I did really, really like this. Oh, I also used these two like golds, this like mid-tone gold and this like champagne-y gold looking thing. So those are really nice. Overall, I think this is really, really gorgeous. I do think I like the mattes a little bit more than the shimmer formula. However, I haven't tested it out to know if that's like definitive. So, okay, last palette. And then you can ignore me forever. This is gonna be a nightmare to edit because I've been talking and then taking breaks for 26 minutes off and on, off and on. Okay, last palette, and then I swear I'll be done. This is newer to my collection. I think I talked about it in my January purchases. I talked about it in some stage. I did use it on camera, but I only used like a couple shades from it. Anyway, this is the Morphe 35i Icy Fantasy palette. It's kind of like, this is a collaboration between Morphe and Pony Park, who she has pony makeup, I think it's called. She's like a Korean influencer and business mogul because she does a lot of collaborations. I think she did a collaboration with someone else like right after this palette. Why don't I remember who it is? Anyway, she has her own brand. I think this is really gorgeous. I picked it up because I was like, I wanted more pastels in my collection. Not for any good reason, just because I was like, oh, they're trendy now, so I should buy more of them. I thought this was really pretty, and I kept seeing people do looks with it, and they look so soft and like ethereal and fairy-like and shit like that. So I was like, I want to look like that too. So I bought this palette, and I will say, when I used it on camera in, God, I think it was like my like January palette roundup or like shit that I bought during January video. I don't know. I only have like 5 videos. Go look for it. I was pretty underwhelmed by it. And I had used it like a couple times off camera before, but I feel like I was just like, it's okay. But now that I've had more time to use it, I do like it. My issue was I kept using this pink because I was like, I need it to work. It didn't work for me the first time. It is a pastel, so maybe I was just like getting my hopes up and like expecting it to work like the Shroud Cosmetics palette, and it just wasn't doing that. And then I was like, why isn't it doing that? So I don't know, but I kept working with the shade, and I think maybe it's just because it was pastel and I wasn't expecting that the first time, or the first couple times I used it. But the last time I used this, which was like a week ago, I was using this pink and I was like packing it all over the lid, and I was using like a blending brush because it was mostly like in the crease that I was using it. And then I was like, oh, you know what? This is actually looking really nice. And then I've been dipping around. I don't love the like shimmer formula in here, like this shimmer right under that matte pink. It's pretty boring. Like, it's pretty, I don't know, like it's okay, but there's much to be desired from that. I guess it's because, again, I do really like a really intense, glittery, shimmery, like reflective shimmer. So I do think the shimmers in here are supposed to go more with the kind of pastel. So they're a little toned down. They're a little more subdued. And I don't know, I guess I'm just not used to that yet, because the first couple times I used it, I was like, I don't know about this, fam. But as I'm getting more and more use out of this, I'm realizing that it is doing what it's supposed to do. Maybe I just don't understand what a pastel is, because maybe it's just because the Shroud Cosmetics palette is just so good and they look so full on in terms of like pastels that I just don't understand what a real pastel is, because those are vivid, those are like bright in your face. So I don't know, I am learning to use this correctly. First of all, I'll say I did try it with the Anastasia eyeshadow primer, their newer one, and I just don't like that primer. I thought it would be good because it's really full coverage and it's like a lighter color, but these shadows did not want to stick to that. So I don't know, if you've had a different experience, let me know, but I don't like that primer at all. I like more of like a sticky, wet kind of concealer looking thing, and I do find that the Anastasia one, as soon as you kind of like blend it out onto the eye so it's like an even layer, it does have a tendency to just like dry down into, I don't know, it just basically like sets itself. So I don't love that. So if you have any recommendations for like a sticky, kind of wet, lighter colored eyeshadow primer, I would love to hear it. Also, if you have any recommendations for spring pastel neon kind of colors and palettes and things like that, also let me know. And if you have any experience with these shadows and you're like, here's how to use it for real and not the way that you've been using it, again, let me know. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know, or if you didn't like it, also let me know and yell at me in the comments. Give this a thumbs up if you liked it at all. And I guess I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.